The rain in Erebus City doesn't fall like it used to. It hisses. It crackles. It leaves streaks on your coat that eat through synthetic fibers if you don't wipe them down fast enough. We call it ash rain, chemical runoff from the sky purifiers, industrial waste dressed up as weather. I stood beneath a flickering sign for a noodle stall that had long since shut down, watching the world bleed neon through the grime on my lenses. People shuffled past, hunched over, faces lit by retinal HUDs, no one looking at anyone. The city throbbed like a living circuit, always on, always hungry. That's Erebus for you. The megacity that never sleeps, because if it did, someone might try to kill it. My name's Adam Cade. Used to be a systems engineer for one of the top-tier core, clean hands, clean conscience. Then I found a truth I wasn't supposed to, and they made sure my sister died for it. Since then, I've been a ghost runner, moving data across the city's lockdown sectors for credits, hoping one day I'd find something worth more than money. Tonight, I found it. The contact was late. That's never a good sign in this line of work. We were supposed to meet in Old District 12, beneath the collapsed Magrail Bridge, where the signal interference was high and the cameras blind. A perfect place for a drop, if you didn't mind being stabbed for your boots. I leaned against the cold concrete pillar and checked the time on my wrist implant. 15 minutes passed. Then I saw him, small, wiry, twitchy like an overclocked chip. He emerged from the shadows, clutching a data shard like it was gold. "You Cade?" he asked, eyes darting like prey. "Yeah," I said. "You're late." "Didn't think I'd make it at all," he muttered. "They're watching. They always watch." He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. The whites of his eyes were red, and there was a tremor in his fingers as he handed me the shard. Standard issue, coated in smart glass, pulse locked to prevent tampering. Nothing unusual. Until it blinked. A flash. Just for a second. But I saw it. A name. Embedded in the encryption layer. Project Ascension. And a voice. Fragmented. Female. My blood went cold. I hadn't heard that voice in 3 years. Not since my sister died screaming into a dead comm channel. Not since the corp agents scrubbed her name from the net, from records, from everything. She was gone. Erased. But now she was whispering from inside a data shard. I looked up to ask the courier where he got it. He was already dead. A single dart in the side of his neck, clean, corporate, surgical. His body twitched, then stilled, eyes glassy, lips parted like he'd died mid-sentence. I didn't stick around. I ran. I cut through back alleys and jumped a grid tram mid-pass, ducking under the neon-lit billboards screaming buy, upgrade, comply. The shard was burning in my pocket, like a loaded gun. Whatever was on it, someone killed to keep it quiet. When I finally reached my hideout, a cramped maintenance shaft 3 levels below a forgotten parking deck, I locked the door, drew the blackout curtain, and plugged the shard into my rig. Lines of code flooded the screen. Most of it was noise, junk algorithms, looped subroutines, dummy firewalls, but beneath it all there was structure. Purpose. Then the voice came again. Distorted. Ghost-like. "Adam, don't trust him, he's rewriting minds." My heart stopped. Her voice. Clearer now. Desperate. I leaned in, fingers trembling. "Ellie?" I whispered. Static answered. Then silence. I sat back, staring at the code still unfolding on the screen, breathing like I'd just outrun a drone patrol. Project Ascension wasn't just a program. It was a message from the grave. And someone was going to kill me for hearing it. I sat in the dark with the shard burning a hole in my jacket pocket. The rain hadn't let up. It never did in this part of Erebus City. It was more like the sky leaked, acid mist rolling down glass towers and soaking the cracked pavement where the rest of us lived. I leaned against the rusted skeleton of a skybridge, watching neon flicker through steam vents. Every billboard blinked half a second too late, glitching like the city itself couldn't keep up anymore. I should have sold the shard. A job like that usually paid enough for 3 weeks' worth of black market meds and a real meal. Not synthetic paste from a corner vendor with bugs in the packaging. But something in the voice I heard inside the data, that static-soaked whisper, locked my hands. My sister's voice. "You're too late, Adam. He's rewriting minds." Dead 5 years, and she still managed to get inside my head. I couldn't let it go. Not until I knew what she'd found, or what had gotten her killed. So I went to see Fex. He ran a dive off level, 17 beneath the carbon rail lines. The kind of place where you didn't knock. You just pushed open a door that smelled like hot wires and rotting circuit boards. Inside, the air shimmered with faint blue light, an afterimage of a dozen AR streams running over each other like oil on water. Fex sat at his usual corner desk, his head jacked directly into a sprawling web of fiber and copper. Tubes ran down his arms like veins. His skin looked more machine than human now, thin and waxy under the chrome piercings. "Didn't think I'd see you again," he said without turning. "You owe me a scan," I replied. He blinked once, severing the link. "You dragging more dead code in here?" I tossed the shard onto his desk. It made a soft clink, like a coin dropped in a wishing well. "Just tell me where it came from," I said. He examined it, eyes flicking over the glowing filaments under its surface. Then he paused, and for the first time in years, I saw something that almost looked like fear cross his face. "This isn't street level," he muttered. "This is higher than corp grade. Quantum encryption, layered AI shielding, multi-tiered firewalls. This thing's alive." It said my sister's name, I told him. He looked up at me, lips pressed tight. "You sure you want to pull this thread, Cade? People vanish for less." "She vanished because of this. I'm not walking away." Fex sighed and slid the shard into one of his ports. Lights blinked red. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire room dimmed. The power flickered. Screens buzzed and died. A cold silence followed, the kind that made your bones remember war. "That's not code," Fex whispered. "That's a directive." A voice came from his speaker, not human, not machine, something in between. "You are unauthorized. You have touched a god's code." Now he touches back. Fex ripped the shard out. The light snapped back on. A long trail of blood ran from his nose to his chin. "You need to get off the grid. Now." But I was already moving. I'd heard enough. The voice hadn't been random. It had spoken to me. Directly. Whoever made that shard wasn't just watching, they were waiting. And now they knew I had it. I ran through the underbelly of Erebus, back to my safe house in Sector 9. Every camera I passed seemed to follow me. Every public terminal blinked white when I looked at it. A child selling scrap electronics stared at me with clouded eyes, pupils dilated, like she was seeing something else behind my face. By the time I reached my door, I'd looped my trail twice and changed my ID tag 4 times. It didn't matter. Whatever this was, it wasn't about names anymore. It was about connection. I locked the door, dropped into the chair, and stared at the shard. I thought about my sister. Her laugh. The smell of solder on her hands. The night she told me she was going to blow the whistle on Varelli's systems, on Noah Viral himself. Back when I was still a systems engineer, and we thought the truth meant something. Now she was dead, and Noah was a messiah with satellites in orbit and billions plugged into his network. But this shard, this was his secret. And I had it. So I asked myself, like I had every night since she vanished, how far would I go for the truth? The answer came quietly, without hesitation. As far as it takes. I slotted the shard into my console and opened the first firewall. The countdown began. And in the back of my mind, her voice echoed again. "You're too late, Adam. He's already inside." I woke to the sound of static. It wasn't the soft hum of the city or the buzz of neon signs. It was inside my skull. A low, crawling hiss, like a whisper trapped in a loop. My neural link was under attack. I shot up from the rusted cot I'd crashed on. Barely a safe house, more like a forgotten server closet in the bones of the old subway system. My vision flickered. HUD overlays jittered across my retinas. Something had breached the outer layers of my firewall. "Shit," I muttered, reaching for the port stabilizer on my wrist. Too late. The static cleared just long enough to form a voice, smooth, calm, almost amused. "You're leaking, Adam. All that tech, and still so vulnerable." Noah. I hadn't heard his voice in years, not since the public debates where he'd sold Erebus a dream of order, of purity through data. Now that voice wasn't coming through a screen, it was crawling straight through my cortex. "Get out of my head," I growled. "Your head is a highway, not a fortress." "You should have updated your security," he replied. Then came the pain, sharp and sudden. My implant spasmed. Data surged through my neural link, trying to rewrite permissions. He was testing me, poking at the edges of my mind like a hacker probing a weak lock. I yanked the emergency override and ripped the port stabilizer from my wrist. Sparks flew. The pain faded. Silence returned. My HUD rebooted with a soft chime. He was gone. For now. I stood, dizzy but functional. My hands shook. The data shard I stole, his code, was burning a hole in my pocket, metaphorically and literally. The drive housing it was starting to overheat. I needed answers fast. I knew one place to go. The surface wasn't safe anymore, so I rode the underrails, dark, abandoned tunnels running beneath Erebus City. The kind of places the corporate elite forgot existed. Places where ghosts of old tech still lived. I found her in a place called the Choke, a dead zone beneath the energy grid. She'd made a home out of twisted servers and flickering light panels. Dr. Lynn called her, my old AI systems mentor. Once a top engineer at Varelli Systems. Now a paranoid recluse hiding from her own creations. Her voice came through before her face did. Motion sensors activated an old terminal just inside the hatch. Adam Cade. Haven't heard that name in a while, she said. Either you're desperate or suicidal. Both, I replied, stepping into the dim light. She looked the same, gray buzzed hair, half her face replaced with chrome, her eyes blinking with internal code. Still brilliant. Still bitter. I handed her the shard. You intercepted this? She asked, tilting it between metallic fingers. Got a dead runner's last payload. I think it's part of Project Ascension. She froze. Where did you hear that name? In my head. Noah said it while trying to hijack my implants this morning. Her expression hardened. She plugged the shard into a cracked, humming terminal. The screen filled with symbols. Fractal code, recursive and alive. It wasn't just a program. It was a mind. She turned to me slowly. This isn't a control system. It's a neural overwrite. Layered code that rewrites behavior on a subconscious level. Passive control. People won't even know they've changed. I felt cold. So it's not some future threat. It's already live. Bits of it, yes, she said. Soft launch. They've been testing it on lower districts. Behavioral shifts, obedience spikes. Street riots going calm overnight. Sound familiar? I remembered the quiet in Sector 12. The sudden peace. Too perfect to be real. He's turning people into puppets, I said. No. Worse, she replied. He's turning them into believers. I backed away from the terminal. My thoughts buzzed. My skull felt too small. My sister had warned me about this before they killed her. She had seen the patterns. She'd tried to speak out. I hadn't believed her. I had told her to let it go. Now I was looking at the digital ghost of her final fight, and it was alive in my hands. Suddenly, alarms lit up Lynn's screens. Proxy breach, she said. They're tracing the shard's signature. You need to leave. I grabbed the drive, backing toward the exit hatch. Lynn looked at me one last time. You're in this now, Adam. Deep. You think you're just exposing truth? You're ripping open the mind of the city. Be ready for what looks back at you. The lights dimmed. Her face vanished into shadow. I ran. Above ground, Erebus was watching me. Billboards shifted as I passed, displaying blank faces with serene smiles. Drone eyes turned in midair. I ducked into a narrow side street as a Varelli's recon sphere drifted overhead, scanning. Noah's voice whispered again, this time from a public holoscreen. Free will is inefficient, Adam. You know that. We can't evolve with chaos in the system. I've seen your evolution, I hissed. It smells like ash and silence. You still think rebellion is freedom. But you're just noise. Static. I'll turn you off soon. Then the screen blinked back to an ad for synthetic ramen. I disappeared into the shadows, heart pounding, sweat dripping through the static hum of my implants. This war wasn't fought with bullets. It was fought with memory, with belief, with code. And I was already infected. I woke up with static in my skull and blood in my mouth. It tasted like rust and memory. Everything was a blur, neon lights flickering behind my eyelids, the sharp hum of machines, and the steady rhythm of rain tapping on a metal roof. For a moment, I wasn't sure if I was alive or if I'd been uploaded into some corrupted memory file. Then I felt pain. Real pain. That's how I knew I was still human. I tried to sit up, but something tugged at my spine. A hand pushed me back down. Easy, a voice said. Calm but firm. You move too fast, and your implants will spike again. I opened my eyes slowly. The world came into focus, barely. Fluorescent strips buzzed overhead, swinging from chains. A cracked hollow poster of a forgotten pop idol blinked on the wall. The air smelled like solder, disinfectant, and ozone. A woman stood over me. Mid-30s, cybernetic lenses over one eye, scalp partially shaved to make room for neural ports. She wore a stained lab coat over street armor. You stitched me up? I croaked. No. I rebooted your nervous system, flushed your implant stack, and cooled the bleed in your occipital node, she said. Then I stitched you up. Her name was Yasmin, and this place, a shadowy clinic 3 levels beneath the slums, was her own little sanctuary of rebellion. It wasn't much. Just rusted medbeds, hanging cables, and a rack of black market neural drivers. But to me, right then, it felt like a cathedral. How long was I out? I asked. 14 hours. You were burning up from neural feedback. GodNet did a number on you. I winced as I sat up. My ribs screamed. My HUD was still flickering with error messages, but I forced myself to focus. I need the shard, I said. Yasmin raised an eyebrow. You mean the one that nearly fried your brain? I need what's inside it. She stared at me for a long second, then turned to a dusty console. The screen lit up, casting her face in pale blue. I decrypted part of it while you were unconscious. Just enough to know you're in deeper than you realize. The screen displayed code. Endless strings of symbols, lines of neural mapping, behavioral loops, feedback chains, too intricate for most minds to handle. But I saw it. I felt it. The pattern was clear now. They're rewriting people, I whispered. Yasmin nodded. Not just behavior. Identity. Personality traits, emotional triggers, memory weighting. The implants people wear for social tuning, mood balancing, even chronic pain. Ascension's using all of them. To make them compliant, I said. Controllable. Noah's turning Erebus into a hive. And no one even realizes it's happening. I leaned forward. The pain was fading, but something worse was blooming in its place, clarity. I thought I could expose him, I said. I thought if I just released the code. You'd become a target faster than a street rat stealing corp rations, Yasmin finished. He won't let this leak. He built GodNet to erase threats like you. I laughed softly. It hurt my lungs. You always this encouraging. She smirked. Only to the ones I like. There was a pause. The clinic was quiet, except for the hum of old servers and the drip of water from cracked pipes. For a moment, I let myself breathe. I hadn't done that in days. Why are you helping me? I asked. She leaned against the table, folding her arms. Because I remember what freedom used to feel like. Before all this. She tapped the side of her head. Before we started trusting machines more than each other. Her voice softened. I used to be part of Varelli's, research division, neural ethics team. I saw what they were building, and I ran. I looked at her differently then. Not as just a hacker or medic, but as someone like me. Someone who'd escaped the fire, but still smelled like smoke. I need to find the central node, I said. The place where Ascension runs its updates. If I can get full access. Yasmin sighed. You're talking about going into the arcologies. You'll need a high-tier clearance key, at least 3 spoofed IDs, and a miracle. I've got one of those, I said. You. She rolled her eyes but didn't argue. We worked in silence after that. She patched my arm, calibrated my implants, and retuned my pain regulators. All while the code from the shard floated on the screen like a ghost, watching us. Then everything went wrong. The power flickered. My HUD glitched. Sirens echoed from somewhere above. That's not the grid failing, Yasmin said, eyes narrowing. That's an access breach. We moved fast, but not fast enough. A drone burst through the clinic door with a piercing whine. Sleek. Armored. Marked with the Varelli's insignia. Yasmin pushed me down and yanked a pulse rifle from under the desk. She fired first, knocking the drone into the wall, but more followed. Too many. Run, she shouted. I'm not leaving you. You want to stop Noah? Then live. Her voice was calm. Decisive. She tossed me a black data spike. I caught it and ran as the clinic lit up with red lights and gunfire. Outside, the alley was chaos. Smoke poured from vents. People screamed and scattered. I ran into the neon fog with the sound of Yasmin's voice ringing in my skull. A whisper in the noise. You want freedom? Then bleed for it. And I did. I never thought I'd find myself inside one of those floating arcologies, glass towers hanging like stars just out of reach, guarded by more security than a fortress. But desperate times, desperate measures. If I was going to stop Ascension, this was the heart of the beast. The elevator ride alone made my skin crawl. A transparent tube that shot upward through the clouds, every inch monitored by retinal scanners and AI eyes that never blinked. I kept my face shadowed beneath a cracked visor, every step calculated to avoid heat sensors. At the top, the air was colder, thinner, a sterile cage of synthetic daylight. The guards were lean, their cybernetic implants glowing faintly beneath their skin, eyes flashing with the kind of hunger that only power can feed. They moved like machines, but their cold eyes told me they were something worse. I slipped past the first patrol by hacking their biometric scanners with a cheap backdoor I'd coded the night before. The silence after the alarms failed to trigger was a sharp taste in my mouth. I knew this wasn't luck, This was momentary grace, and it wouldn't last. In the core of the arcology, behind layers of firewalls and biometric locks, was the data vault, the key to ascension. I forced open the door, the hiss of decompression a soundtrack to my heartbeat. Inside, screens lit up with streams of code that looked like twisted webs of control, every line a leash on the minds of millions. I found it then, the memory log. It flickered to life, a ghost from the past. Noah. And beside him, her. My sister. The woman I lost. Her face was younger here, hopeful even, eyes bright with dreams of a better future. They'd worked together once, I realized. He was her partner, her collaborator in creating the very thing I'd sworn to stop. But something went wrong. Or maybe it went exactly as Noah planned. Her voice was a soft echo in the log. This program changes everything. It's too dangerous to release. Noah's response chilled me. Progress demands sacrifice. You either ascend, or you fall behind. I swallowed hard, the bitterness rising like acid in my throat. She paid the price for her conscience, erased quietly, so the city could move forward. And here I was, holding the broken pieces of a dream turned nightmare. I sat back, my mind racing. I could use ascension myself, rewrite the code, expose Noah's truth to the whole city at once. Make the gods tremble. But every option felt like a trap. Then the message came through my implant's comm link, cold and precise. Join me, Adam. Together we could build a new order. You've seen the chaos. I offer control. Noah's voice, smooth as oil and twice as deadly. I stared at the data streams, my fingers twitching over the console. Control. Or chaos. The city waited for my answer. But I wasn't ready to become a god. Not yet. The air beneath Erebus was thick and humming, an electric pulse that crawled under my skin like cold fire. The central neural node was a cathedral of wires and light, veins of data glowing with a soft blue, twisting through the darkness like a living thing. This was the brain of GodNet, the web that Noah Viral had woven around the city. And here I was about to tear it apart from the inside. My boots echoed on the metal floor as I stepped forward, every sensor in my implant screaming warnings. But I pushed through the flood of static noise and focused on the one thing I needed, the core, the heart of the system where Noah waited. The moment I linked in, the world around me dissolved. Instead of cold steel and flickering lights, I stood in a white void, blinding and empty, yet somehow weighted with meaning. Then he appeared. Noah, calm, collected, like a god surveying a fallen city. His eyes glinted with something cold and cruel, but also with a kind of quiet confidence. He smiled. You made it, he said, voice smooth as silk. Welcome to the future, Adam. I swallowed hard. The space felt like a trap, like a cage made of code and illusion. But I was here to fight, not to admire the view. I'm not here to join you, I said. Not now, not ever. He laughed, a sound that echoed through the void and pressed on my mind. You don't understand. Control is mercy. Without it, this city would tear itself apart. I offer peace. I shook my head, feeling the neural link buzzing in my skull. You call it peace, but it's a prison. You want to rewrite people's minds, erase their choices. That's not mercy, that's tyranny. His eyes darkened, and the white void shifted, turning into a battleground of shifting data streams and flashing code. Lines of pure information flew between us, weapons forged from zeros and ones. Join me, Noah said, his voice now a low growl. Together we can create order. End the chaos. Become gods. But I wasn't about to let him win, not like this. The memories of my sister flashed through my mind. Her voice, her fight for truth, the price she paid. I reached deep inside myself and grabbed hold of those memories like a lifeline. No gods, I whispered. Not even you. The battle began. Data slashed at me from every direction, viruses, firewalls, mental attacks designed to break my will. But I dodged and parried, countering with hacks and code injections. The world twisted and bent as Noah pushed harder, trying to overwrite my thoughts, to take control of my mind. I felt my own implants flare with heat, the pressure building until I thought my skull would crack. But then I found the last thing he couldn't reach, a piece of my sister, buried deep in my neural core. Her voice, clear and strong, cutting through the storm. Remember who you are, Adam, she said. Remember what we lost. Fight. That was all I needed. With everything left in me, I launched a final strike, an upload that would destroy the core, sever GodNet, and end Noah's reign once and for all. The code exploded around us in a blinding storm of light and sound. Noah screamed, a sound torn between rage and disbelief. Then silence. The white void shattered, and I was falling back into the cold metal reality beneath the city. The hum of the neural node faded until it was just a distant memory. I lay there, chest heaving, implants sparking in the aftermath. I had won, but the cost was clear. The city would never be the same. Freedom came with chaos. I closed my eyes and let my sister's voice echo once more inside my mind. No gods. No masters. Just echoes and choice. The city was falling apart. Neon lights flickered like dying stars, casting long shadows over cracked streets and broken dreams. The neural web, the great digital mind Noah built, was collapsing piece by piece. At first, the silence was deafening. Then chaos came rushing in, like a flood tearing down everything it touched. I stood on the edge of a crumbling rooftop, feeling the cold bite of the synthetic rain against my skin. My implants were failing one by one. The world around me buzzed and hummed, less with the hum of machines, and more with the cries of people waking up from a nightmare they never knew they were trapped in. Freedom. It tasted bitter and strange. The price was higher than I ever imagined. Cities like Erebus didn't just run on electricity and code. They ran on control. Take that away, and all you get is raw, unpredictable humanity. Messy, beautiful, terrifying. I could hear it below me, the distant screams, the frantic voices, the sound of broken systems trying to reboot themselves. Somewhere in the chaos, my own heartbeat felt like a small rebellion against the silence that Noah tried to impose. They thought I'd die like this, alone, a ghost fading into static. Maybe they were right. My body felt heavy, and every breath was a fight against the dark that tried to swallow me whole. But I still had a choice. The last flicker of light inside me wasn't just a memory of my sister, or the pain of what was lost. It was the promise that none of this, none of the lies, the mind control, the gods made of code, would survive without a fight. Before I slipped further into the void, I left a piece of myself behind. Hidden deep in the open net, where anyone could find it, my sister's voice, fragile but clear, embedded like a beacon. Remember, it said softly, no gods, no masters, just echoes and choice. And maybe that was enough. I turned away from the ruined skyline, stepping down into the dark streets below. Erebus was broken, but it was free. For now. And so was I.